Let us be honest. Your current morning routine is alarm, ignore, alarm, ignore, alarm. Fine, I am up, stare at the ceiling like you are waiting for God to text you a reason to get out of bed. And then, phone. Obviously, because apparently the ceiling did not have enough information. So now you are lying horizontal, not yet fully conscious, scrolling through news that makes you anxious, posts that make you feel behind, and opinions from people you have never met about things that have nothing to do with your life. And you have been awake for approximately 90 seconds. Congratulations. You just let the entire internet win the first round of the day before your feet touched the floor. Now you are in the shower, thinking about 17 things that have not happened yet. You are eating breakfast while mentally rehearsing a conversation you need to have that you have been avoiding for 2 weeks. You are driving to work or sitting at your desk already carrying the full emotional weight of a day that technically has not started yet. And you wonder why by 10 in the morning you feel like you have already lived an entire week. It is because you started the day at a deficit. You handed your most powerful minutes to everything except yourself, and now you are running the whole day on empty, trying to catch up to a version of you that never got the chance to show up. Here is what nobody tells you. Those first few minutes of the morning, the ones you are currently spending arguing with an alarm clock and giving your brain to strangers on the internet, those minutes are the most valuable real estate in your entire day. Not because something magical happens in them, because they set the operating system for everything that comes after them. The words you say to yourself in the morning are not just words. They are instructions. They load into your mind before the day starts running on it, and they determine what you notice, how you respond, what you believe is possible, and how much of yourself you actually bring to the moments that matter. The Stoics understood this better than anyone. Marcus Aurelius, a man running the most powerful empire on earth, started every single morning with a mental preparation practice before he let the day touch him. Seneca, one of the most influential thinkers in Roman history, wrote entire letters about the importance of owning your morning before anything else owned it. Epictetus, a man who literally owned nothing, understood that what he said to himself first was the only real asset he had. None of them started their day by checking what strangers thought about things they could not control. They started it by talking to themselves, deliberately, with intention, with the full understanding that the mind you bring to the day is the most important thing you bring. So today you are getting 10 words for your morning, 10 affirmations built on 2,000 years of Stoic philosophy, modern psychology, and the hard-won wisdom of people who figured out how to actually live well instead of just performing wellness on the internet. They are going to sound simple. Do not let that fool you. The simplest things are always the ones we most consistently fail to do, and the ones that change everything when we finally start. Put the phone down. Sit with this. Give yourself the one thing you have been giving to everyone else since the moment you woke up, your own attention, for the next few minutes. Finally, if this video is the first thing that has made your morning feel like it belongs to you in a very long time, comment below. I am taking my morning back. Number 1. Today I choose my response. Not my circumstances. My response. Quick warning before we start. Something is going to go sideways today. Not dramatically, hopefully, but something. A message that lands in exactly the wrong tone. A plan that makes it to about 11 in the morning before reality completely dismantles it. A colleague who says something so spectacularly unhelpful that you spend the next 30 minutes in your head writing the perfect comeback you will absolutely never say out loud. That is not pessimism. That is just Tuesday. Life does not cooperate with scheduled plans. If it did, nobody would need meditation apps, Stress eating would not be a recognized coping strategy, and Monday mornings would not have that specific energy of everyone quietly wondering how it got bad so fast. So, the question is never whether something difficult is going to arrive today. It is. The only question is what happens in the space between when it arrives and when you respond to it. That space is small, embarrassingly small in most people. The gap between trigger and reaction is so compressed that most people do not even know they have one. Someone says something, and they are already irritated before they have processed what was said. Something goes wrong, and the panic is already running before any rational assessment of the situation has taken place. They are on autopilot, and autopilot is a perfectly good setting for driving a familiar route, but a catastrophic one for navigating a human life. Epictetus said, "It is not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." This man was enslaved. He had less control over his external circumstances than almost anyone reading this will ever experience, and from that position of radical powerlessness, he built a philosophy that has outlasted empires. His entire argument was this: they can control everything outside me. They cannot control what I do with it on the inside. That is mine, always. Your response is yours, always. Even when it does not feel like it, even when someone has pushed exactly the right button in exactly the right sequence, and the emotional response feels completely automatic and completely unavoidable, there is still a space, tiny, requires practice to find it. But it is there. And in that space is the difference between a person who is living their day and a person who is being lived by it. Choosing your response does not mean choosing to feel nothing. It means choosing what you do with what you feel. The frustration can be real, and you can still decide not to fire off the message you will regret by 4 in the afternoon. The anxiety can be genuine, and you can still decide not to let it make the next decision for you. The anger can be completely justified, and you can still decide that right now is not the moment to act from it. That is not suppression. That is the most sophisticated form of power available to a human being. The ability to feel something fully and choose your next move anyway, rather than letting the feeling choose it for you. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." He wrote this while managing an empire, while dealing with wars and plagues and political betrayal, and the daily reality of being responsible for millions of people. He still had to remind himself every single morning that his power was not in controlling what happened. It was in controlling what he did about it. If Marcus Aurelius needed that reminder before running Rome, you are allowed to need it before your Tuesday. Say this one first every morning, before you know what the day contains, before the plan has had a chance to be disrupted, before the difficult person has said the difficult thing. Today, I choose my response, not my circumstances. My response. Say it like you mean it. Because on the days when something genuinely tests it, you are going to need to have already decided. You are stronger than anything this day is going to throw at you. You have already proven that. Every single difficult chapter you survived without permanently falling apart. Every moment you held yourself together when falling apart was the easier option. That strength is not luck. It is you. It has always been you. And it begins fresh every morning the moment you choose your response, before the day chooses it for you. Walk into today knowing that. Nothing coming at you today is bigger than the person reading these words right now. Number 2. I am not behind. I am exactly where my journey has brought me. Somewhere between your 20s and right now, you developed a timeline. You did not consciously design it. It assembled itself from 100 different sources. What your parents expected, what your friends seemed to be achieving, what social media presented as the normal pace of a successful adult life. What you told yourself at 22 when you were optimistic about timelines and had not yet met the specific combination of circumstances that were going to rearrange your original plan entirely. And now you carry this quiet, persistent, slightly exhausting sense of being late, of running behind a schedule that everyone else seems to be managing to keep, of being at a point in your story that should have been a chapter ago, the relationship that was supposed to exist by now, the career that was supposed to be further along, the version of yourself that was supposed to have figured more of this out by this age. And meanwhile, you are scrolling through people who are apparently achieving everything on schedule and wondering what exactly you are doing wrong. Here is what you are doing wrong. You are comparing your real life to other people's highlight reels and to an imaginary timeline that was designed before you knew what your actual life was going to ask of you. That is not a fair comparison. That is not even a coherent comparison. You are measuring a real, complicated, genuinely lived human experience against a fantasy that never had to survive contact with reality. The fantasy never lost anyone, never had its plans dismantled by circumstances it could not have predicted, never had to rebuild from something that fell apart, never had to take the long route because the direct one turned out to be closed. Of course, the fantasy looks more on schedule. It was never real enough to get delayed. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Confine yourself to the present, not as a spiritual instruction to ignore the future, as a practical recognition that the present is the only place where anything actually gets built. The future is constructed here, in the choices made today, not in the anxious mental accounting of how far behind the imagined schedule you appear to have fallen. Your journey brought you here, every detour included, every season that lasted longer than you expected, every chapter that closed before you felt ready, and every beginning that arrived before you felt prepared. All of it brought you to this specific point, with the specific understanding and resilience and clarity that this point required. None of it was wasted. Even the parts that felt like pure loss were building something in you that the smooth, on-schedule version of your life never would have produced. The person standing here, having taken the unexpected route, carries something the person who took the direct route does not. They carry the knowledge that they adapted, that they survived the chapters that were not in the original plan, that they are more equipped for difficulty than someone whose life has only ever tested them with the things they were ready for. You are not behind. You are seasoned. You are at precisely the point your specific and irreplaceable journey has reached. And from that point, everything that matters is still entirely possible. In fact, some of it is more possible now than it would have been if you had arrived here on the original schedule, because you are a different and more capable person than the one who drew that timeline up. Say this one before the comparison begins, before you open the apps, before you see what other people are announcing and feel the familiar drop of believing you are somehow falling short of a race nobody officially started. I am not behind. I am exactly where my journey has brought me. Say it like the fact it is, because it is. And here is what that fact means for today. It means you are not playing catch-up. You are not making up for lost time. You are a person with a real and specific and genuinely remarkable history of survival and adaptation, standing at the beginning of a day that belongs entirely to you. Every resource you need for what is coming was forged in everything you have already been through. Your detours did not delay your story. They are your story, and it is a far more powerful one than the on-schedule version ever would have been. Number 3. My peace is not for sale. Not today. Not for anyone. Today is going to make you an offer you should absolutely refuse. Not in a dramatic way. It will not announce itself. It will arrive in the form of a conversation that wants all of your emotional energy, a news story that wants your anxiety, an opinion from someone who does not know your full story, but has strong feelings about the chapter they witnessed, a conflict that technically could wait, but has decided that right now, while you are trying to function, is the perfect moment to demand your full participation. And you, being a reasonable person who takes things seriously and cares about doing right by the people in your life, will consider engaging with all of it. Because that is what responsible adults do, right? They stay informed. They respond. They manage the situations that arrive. They do not just choose peace when peace is inconvenient. Except here is the thing that responsible adults rarely acknowledge. A depleted, anxious, reactive version of you is useful to nobody. Not to your work, not to your relationships, not to your own life and the goals you are trying to build toward. The version of you that operates from a place of constant alarm is not more engaged or more responsible than the version that operates from groundedness. It is just louder and more exhausted and making worse decisions faster. Peace is not the absence of engagement with the world. Peace is the foundation from which effective engagement becomes possible. The surgeon who operates from calm makes better decisions than the one who operates from panic. The parent who responds from groundedness raises children differently than the one who reacts from depletion. The person who engages with difficulty from a stable center handles it better than the one who engages from a nervous system that has been in alarm mode since the first notification of the morning. Seneca wrote, "True happiness is to enjoy the present without anxious dependence upon the future, not to amuse ourselves with either hopes or fears, but to rest satisfied with what we have, which is sufficient, for he that is so wants nothing." Seneca was not describing someone who had given up on ambition. He was describing someone who had stopped letting the pursuit of what they did not yet have destroy their relationship with what they actually had. Protecting your peace is one of the most countercultural things you can do in a world that has financially incentivized your anxiety. The news is more engaging when it frightens you. Social media is more addictive when it triggers comparison. Advertising works better when you feel like you are lacking something. The entire attention economy is built on the premise that a peaceful, settled, genuinely content human being is useless to them. Because a peaceful human being does not click as much. Your peace is worth protecting precisely because so many things are designed to take it, not because the world is malicious, but because your attention is valuable and anxiety is one of the most effective mechanisms for capturing it. Every time you choose peace over the offered anxiety, you are doing something quietly radical. You are refusing to be a product of the attention economy and insisting on being a person instead. That choice has to be made in the morning, before the offers arrive, before the day presents its first bid for your equilibrium, because once the anxiety has started running, it is significantly harder to choose peace than it was before it began. The morning is your window to set the policy before the negotiations start. Say this one with some real conviction: my peace is not for sale, not today, not for anyone, not for the news cycle, not for the difficult person, not for the situation that could technically wait but arrived with artificial urgency, not for anyone who mistakes your calm for indifference. My peace is mine, and I am keeping it today. A peaceful person is not a passive person. A peaceful person is the most dangerous kind of powerful because their clarity is undisturbed. Their thinking is clean. Their decisions are made from their highest understanding rather than from the panic of a nervous system that spent the morning being hijacked by everything that wanted a reaction. That is who you are today, clear, grounded, unshakable. Not because nothing is hard, but because you decided before it got hard that your peace was worth more than the reaction. Number 4. I release what I cannot control and pour myself into what I can. You are currently worrying about at least 3 things you have absolutely no power over. Do not be offended. So is everyone. The human brain was not designed for the modern world. It was designed for a world where threats were immediate, local, visible, and usually solvable by either running or throwing something. It was not designed for a world where you can be aware, in real time, of every catastrophe happening on every continent simultaneously, while also worrying about your own life, your relationships, your finances, your health, your career, and whether the weird noise your car made this morning means something expensive. The brain, being the overachieving anxiety machine that it is, tries to manage all of it. It treats each piece of unresolvable worry as a problem to be solved, and runs the solving process continuously in the background, consuming enormous amounts of energy and producing very little except the persistent low-grade hum of a nervous system that never quite gets to switch off. This is not a character flaw. It is a design issue. The hardware is running software it was never built to run, and the result is a kind of exhaustion that sleep does not fully fix, because the mind was working through the night too. The Stoics had a solution for this that is 2,000 years old and still the most effective one available. They called it the dichotomy of control. Epictetus put it plainly. Of things, some are in our power and others are not. In our power are opinion, motivation, desire, aversion. Not in our power are body, reputation, command, and in a word, whatever is not our own action. 2 lists. What is yours and what is not. Most people spend most of their energy on the second list, and then wonder why they are perpetually depleted despite working so hard. The energy spent on what cannot be changed does not change what cannot be changed. It just drains what was available for what can be. Releasing what you cannot control is not giving up. It is not indifference dressed in philosophical language. It is the most intelligent possible allocation of a finite resource. You wake up every day with a limited amount of mental and emotional energy. Every unit spent on what is outside your jurisdiction is a unit not spent on what is inside it. The mathematics of this is clean and unavoidable. The only question is whether you are doing the maths consciously or letting the brain run its default algorithm of worrying about everything with equal urgency, regardless of whether anything can be done about it. What is inside your jurisdiction? Your effort today, your quality of attention, the choices available to you in the hours ahead, your responses to what arrives, your decisions about what to engage with and what to let pass, your commitment to the things that actually matter to you, regardless of what the uncontrollable circumstances are doing around them. That list is actually quite long, and it is the only list that produces anything. The other list is a consumption engine with no output. Pour yourself into what you can change and release the rest with the understanding that releasing it is not weakness. It is the most sophisticated form of energy management available to a human being. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." He was managing an empire with wars on multiple fronts, and he still had to remind himself every morning that his power was in what he did, not in what happened. If Marcus Aurelius needed the reminder, your Tuesday qualifies. Say this one before the list of uncontrollable things starts assembling itself in your mind, because it will. It always does. I release what I cannot control and pour myself into what I can. Say it as a redirection. As the moment your brain stops running the futile algorithm and starts running the useful one, and then actually pour yourself in, fully, without reservation, without holding back, because the outcome is not guaranteed. The outcome was never guaranteed. That is not new information. What is new is the decision to bring everything you have to what is yours to effect anyway, because that commitment, that complete and unconditional commitment to your own effort regardless of outcome, is what separates the people who build things from the people who wait to see if building is worth it before they begin. You have more influence over today than you think. Pour all of it in, every drop. Watch what happens when you do. Number 5. I am becoming. Every single day I am becoming more of who I am meant to be. You cannot see your own growth while it is happening. This is one of life's more frustrating design features. You can feel yourself getting physically stronger. You can track a skill improving in real time. You can watch a number change in a bank account or on a scale or in a follower count and have immediate visible evidence that something has shifted. But the most important growth a human being goes through across a lifetime, the growth in wisdom and resilience and self-knowledge and the capacity to navigate difficulty without being dismantled by it, that growth is completely invisible while it is happening. It does not send notifications. It does not show up on a dashboard. It does not announce itself in any way that the modern, metric-obsessed brain considers valid evidence that progress is occurring. And so most people conclude that it is not occurring. They look at themselves and see the same fears they had a year ago, the same doubts, the same patterns showing up in their relationships and their reactions and their relationship with difficulty. And they decide that nothing has actually changed, that the work they have been doing has produced nothing measurable, that they are somehow stuck in an amber version of themselves, that all their effort has failed to shift. This conclusion is almost always wrong. And the reason it is wrong is not complicated. You are measuring growth against an imagined destination rather than against an actual starting point. You are comparing yourself to who you hope to eventually become, rather than to who you were when you began. Measured against an imagined destination that has not been reached, any current position looks like failure. Measured against where you actually started, most people have moved considerably further than they give themselves credit for. Seneca wrote, "It is not that I am brave, it is that I have decided what is worth my courage." Every time you decided what was worth your courage and then acted on that decision, you grew. Every time you chose honesty when dishonesty was significantly easier. Every time you tried again after something did not work. Every time you said no to what was comfortable but wrong and yes to what was right but difficult. Every one of those moments was becoming. Quiet, invisible, accumulated becoming. You are not the same person you were a year ago. The change may not be visible to the people who see you every day because they are calibrated to your current state rather than your previous one. But you have been moving in the direction of more understanding, more capacity, more honest self-knowledge, more ability to navigate the specific kind of difficulty that your specific life keeps generating. And becoming never stops for anyone who keeps choosing growth over comfort. It continues across the full length of a life. Every difficult season that you moved through rather than around, every honest conversation you had with yourself that you had been avoiding, every moment you chose to be slightly better than you were the day before, all of it is becoming. All of it is the quiet construction of the person your life has been trying to build since the beginning. Say this one on the mornings when you feel stuck, especially those mornings. I am becoming. Every single day, I am becoming more of who I am meant to be. Say it not as a claim about who you already are, but as a recognition of the process you are already inside, because the becoming is already happening. Whether or not you can see it from where you are standing, you are not the finished version of yourself. Nobody is. But you are further along than you were, more equipped, more honest, more capable of navigating the specific difficulty your specific life keeps generating. And every morning you wake up and choose growth over comfort. You add another quiet, invisible, enormously important layer to the person you are becoming. Keep going. The person you are becoming is worth every uncomfortable morning it takes to arrive there. Number 6. I do not need their approval to know my own worth. At some point between childhood and now, you picked up a habit that is costing you enormously. Before feeling certain about a decision you made, you checked whether the people around you seemed to approve of it. Before feeling good about something you created, you waited to see how it was received. Before trusting your own reading of a situation, you calibrated it against the readings of others. You outsourced the process of understanding your own value to the external responses of people who, let us be honest, are too busy managing their own lives to be conducting a reliable assessment of yours. This is not a personality flaw. It is a survival strategy that got installed early and never got updated. In childhood, approval and safety were genuinely linked. To be approved of was to belong. To be disapproved of was to be at risk of exclusion from the group, which for a small human in a social species was a real threat. The nervous system responded accordingly. It learned to treat the absence of approval as an emergency requiring immediate attention. The problem is that you are no longer a small human in a social species trying to survive the dynamics of a childhood group. You are an adult. And the nervous system did not get the update. It is still running the same approval-seeking software it installed decades ago, treating every disapproving look and every critical comment and every absence of the expected validation as though it were a genuine threat to your continued existence, rather than just one person's opinion shaped by their own history and their own limitations and their own very full schedule of their own problems. Epictetus said, "Never say about anything that I have lost it, but that I have returned it." What gets returned when you stop seeking approval is yourself. The real, unperformed, genuinely yours version of yourself that has been hiding underneath the version that learned to present itself in whatever shape seemed most likely to generate approval from whoever was currently in the room. Your worth is not a variable. This is important enough to say directly. It does not go up when people approve of you and down when they do not. It is a constant. It was established the moment you arrived here, and it has not changed based on any subsequent vote taken by any audience you have ever performed for. The approval of others is information. Sometimes it is useful information. Often it is worth considering. But it is not a measurement of your value. It is one person's response to one aspect of you in one moment. That is all it has ever been. The person who has genuinely released the need for approval moves differently through the world. Not coldly, not without care for how they affect others, but with a settled quality that people who are still seeking approval do not have. Because they are no longer calibrating their behavior to produce a particular response from the room. They are just being what they actually are. And what they actually are, unperformed and unedited, is always more compelling than the most polished performance of it. Say this one before you walk into the rooms where the opinions live, before the presentation, before the conversation with the person whose approval you have been chasing, before you post the thing and wait to see how it lands. I do not need their approval to know my own worth. Say it until it stops being something you are trying to convince yourself of and starts being something you simply remember is already true. Because it is already true. It was always true. Your worth was never up for vote. It was never dependent on the count. It was never something that required a certain number of people to agree before it became real. You are enough, right now, as you are, in this specific imperfect unfinished version of yourself that is still showing up every morning and still choosing to try. That person is enough. That person has always been enough. And today you are going to walk through the world like you finally believe it. Number 7. Difficult does not mean impossible. Hard does not mean wrong. Your brain is going to lie to you today, several times, with great confidence. One of its favorite lies is this one: if this were the right path, it would not be this hard. If this relationship were right, it would not require this much work. If this career were right, it would not feel this exhausting. If this decision were right, it would not generate this much resistance. The difficulty is a signal, and the signal says stop. This lie is particularly effective because it is dressed in the language of wisdom. It sounds like discernment. It sounds like you are reading the situation intelligently rather than avoiding something because it is frightening. It wraps surrender in such reasonable language that by the time you realize you have been talked out of something important, it is already comfortably behind you, and the comfortable path is already under your feet. The truth is almost exactly the opposite. The most important things in a human life are almost always hard. Not occasionally, almost always. Real connection requires vulnerability, which is hard. Real growth requires discomfort, which is hard. Real integrity requires saying the true thing when the easy thing is available, which is hard. Real achievement requires sustained effort, past the point where stopping becomes available as an option, which is also, surprisingly, hard. Easy is not a reliable indicator of right. Easy usually means familiar, and familiar means you have done this before, and doing what you have done before produces what you have already had, which may be fine, or may be exactly what you are trying to change. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." He was not writing poetry. He was writing a daily reminder to himself that the obstacle is not evidence of the wrong path. The obstacle is the path. The difficulty is not a signal to turn back. It is the mechanism through which the path produces the person capable of completing it. You do not arrive at the destination and then develop the capability the journey required. You develop the capability during the journey, through the hard parts, especially through the hard parts. Hard does not mean wrong. This distinction needs to live somewhere accessible in your mind before the hard thing arrives, because when you are inside the difficulty, the brain does not naturally produce this distinction. It produces the other one, the one that says this is too much. The one that builds a very reasonable case for why stopping is the intelligent choice rather than the frightened one. The affirmation is not a denial of the difficulty. The difficulty is real. The discomfort is real. The desire to stop is human and understandable and nothing to be ashamed of. The affirmation is a competing voice, one with access to a longer view than the feeling has, one that remembers what was built the last time you pushed through something this hard, one that knows the difference between the difficulty that signals genuine danger and the difficulty that signals genuine growth. Say this one on the mornings when you already know the day contains something you do not want to do. Difficult does not mean impossible. Hard does not mean wrong. Say it before the resistance builds, before the brain starts assembling its case for the easier alternative. Because once the case is fully assembled, it is significantly more convincing than when you are standing outside it looking in. You have done hard things before, more hard things than you currently give yourself credit for. You did them scared. You did them under-resourced. You did them without any guarantee that they were going to work out. And some of them did not work out. And you are still here, still standing, still trying. That is not ordinary. That is extraordinary. Today's hard thing is not the thing that finishes you. It is the thing that proves again that you are the kind of person who does not stop when it gets hard. Go prove it one more time. Number 8. I give my best to this day, and I let the rest go. You are going to do your best today, and it might not be enough. That is a real possibility, and we should name it directly. You can prepare thoroughly, show up fully, give everything available to you, to the thing in front of you, and still watch the outcome move somewhere you did not intend it to go. Because outcomes are not determined solely by your effort. They emerge from the intersection of your effort and approximately 1,000 other factors that were never in your hands. Other people's decisions, timing that you do not control, circumstances that could not have been anticipated, the specific, unpredictable combination of variables that constitutes reality as it actually is, rather than as your plan required it to be. Most people know this, and most people spend their days acting as though it is not true, holding themselves responsible for results that depended on factors their effort alone could never have determined, replaying their decisions in search of the error that caused the outcome, rather than accepting that the outcome was always going to be shaped by more than their decisions, treating every difficult result as evidence of a personal failure, rather than as evidence that reality is complicated and not entirely responsive to effort, no matter how excellent the effort was. This is not just philosophically problematic, it is practically damaging, because the person who holds themselves responsible for every outcome, including the ones they could not control, burns through their reserves of self-confidence in proportion to the number of uncontrollable things that go wrong. And reality being what it is, a significant number of things go wrong, regardless of the quality of the effort applied to them. Seneca wrote, "Reclaim yourself, for you were being robbed." He was talking about time, but the principle applies to energy and self-regard equally well. You are being robbed every time you hold yourself accountable for an outcome that was never fully yours to determine. Every time you replay the decision trying to find the error that would explain the result. Every time you refuse to give yourself credit for genuine effort because the outcome did not validate it. Giving your best to this day means something specific. It means committing fully to what is within your influence without hedging that commitment as a protection against the disappointment of an imperfect outcome. It means showing up completely rather than partially in case the partial version is easier to defend if things go wrong. It means caring genuinely about the work without making your self-worth contingent on whether the work produces the result you intended. Letting the rest go is not indifference. It is the recognition that your capacity for tomorrow depends on your ability to close today without carrying its unresolved outcomes into the next morning as additional weight. The person who can complete a day having given their best and genuinely release what they cannot control about the results wakes up the next morning with their full capacity available. The person who cannot do this arrives at tomorrow already depleted by yesterday's unresolved accounting. Say this one as both a commitment and a permission. The commitment to full effort, the permission to release outcome. I give my best to this day, and I let the rest go. Both halves matter equally. The first without the second is perfectionism dressed as dedication. The second without the first is avoidance dressed as acceptance. Together, they are the most sustainable way a human being can engage with a day that is guaranteed to contain things outside their control. Your best is enough. It has always been enough. Not because it guarantees a particular outcome, because it is the fullest expression of everything you are capable of in this moment. And the person who consistently brings their fullest expression to each day builds something across time that the person holding back never could. Bring everything today, all of it. Hold nothing back, and when the day ends, release it completely. You showed up. You gave everything. That is the whole job. Number 9. I choose who gets my energy today, not by accident, by decision. Your energy is the most valuable thing you will spend today, and you have never been taught how to budget it. School taught you how to budget money, sort of. Parents taught you how to budget time, poorly. Nobody sat you down and said your emotional and mental energy is a finite resource that depletes across the day, and that how you allocate it is one of the most consequential decisions you make, mostly without making it at all. Because that is the thing. Most people do not decide where their energy goes. They react to wherever it gets pulled. The loudest demand wins. The most persistent person gets the most access. The most urgent-looking situation gets the most attention, regardless of whether the urgency is real or manufactured, or simply the result of someone else's poor planning that has now been reframed as your emergency. And by the end of the day, you are sitting there wondering why you feel so depleted when you did not even accomplish the things that actually matter to you. It is because those things do not usually arrive with urgency attached. They sit quietly waiting for you to choose them while everything else with artificial urgency jumped the queue and spent what you had available before those things ever got their turn. Epictetus said, "Make the best use of what is in your power and take the rest as it happens." Your energy is in your power. Where it goes is a decision that you are making, consciously or by default, from the moment the day starts. The only question is whether you are making it deliberately or surrendering it to whoever is most insistent about claiming it. Choosing who gets your energy is not cruelty. Let us be clear about that, because this affirmation can be misread as permission to become selfish. It is not. It is permission to become intentional. There is a significant difference. The selfish person withholds energy from others to preserve it for their own comfort. The intentional person allocates energy toward what genuinely deserves it, which includes other people and often includes putting others first. The difference is that the choice is made deliberately rather than by default. The person who gives their full attention to what has genuinely earned it is more useful to everyone around them than the person who scatters their attention across everything equally. Because full attention is a different quality of resource than divided attention. A person who brings their complete focus to a conversation is more present, more useful, more genuinely connected than a person who is technically there but operating at 30%, because the other 70 was already spent before this conversation began. Decide in the morning, before the requests arrive, before the day starts its negotiation for everything you walked in with. Today, I am choosing where my energy goes. Not every situation that wants it will get it. Not every person who demands it has earned it. Not every urgency that presents itself is a real urgency. I am deciding, not reacting, deciding. Say this one before you open the door to the day. I choose who gets my energy today, not by accident, by decision. Say it as a policy you are setting in advance rather than a response you are making in the moment. Because in the moment, the pull of other people's urgency is significantly stronger than the quiet voice of your own priorities. The morning is the only time the quiet voice has the room to actually be heard. You are the gatekeeper of the most valuable resource you will ever have. Your focused, undivided, fully present attention. Guard it today like it matters, because the people and things that deserve it will feel the difference between receiving it fully and receiving a fraction of it. And you will feel the difference at the end of a day spent investing your energy versus a day spent watching it drain toward everything that grabbed for it. Today you are investing. Choose wisely. Spend boldly on what matters, and protect everything else like your future depends on it, because it does. Number 10. This is my life. I am living it forward, starting right now. At some point, your life started feeling like something that was happening to you rather than something you were building. It is a gradual shift. Nobody wakes up one morning and decides to become a passive participant in their own existence. It creeps in across years of responding to demands rather than setting direction, of maintaining what exists rather than building what could, of of choosing the path of least resistance so many times that the path of least resistance became the only path that felt like an actual option. And then one day you look up and realize the days are going very fast, and the things you meant to build are still unbuilt, and the version of yourself you intended to become is still waiting patiently at some future point that keeps moving further away every time you look at it. That feeling is not unique to you. It is one of the most common and least discussed experiences in adult life. The grey of a life that is being lived by momentum from the past rather than direction from the present. The specific and quietly devastating sense of being a spectator in your own story rather than the one holding the pen. But it is not a permanent condition. It is a posture, and postures can be changed. Not dramatically, not in one decisive moment that rewrites everything, but in the next choice, and the one after that, and the steady accumulation of choices made from direction rather than momentum, until the direction becomes the momentum and the life starts moving the way you are actually pointing it. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good person should be. Be one." Apply this directly. Waste no more time wondering what a well-lived, intentional, forward-moving life looks like. Live one. Starting with the decisions available in this moment, this hour. This ordinary, unremarkable day that contains, like every ordinary, unremarkable day, an enormous number of small decisions that are collectively building something whether you are conscious of what they are building or not. This is your life, not a rehearsal, not a preparation for the real version that will begin when the circumstances improve or the fear reduces or the resources finally align. This is the real one, the only one. It is happening right now in the Tuesday of your actual existence, and it is being shaped by what you decide in the next hour, whether or not that hour feels significant enough to bother deciding intentionally. Living it forward means making today's decisions with honest reference to the direction you want your life to move, rather than the direction it has been moving by default. It means asking not just what is easiest in this moment, but what is most aligned with the person you are intending to become. It means treating the present not as something to get through on the way to the future, but as the actual material from which the future is being made. Right now, in this moment, with this choice. Because the future is not a place that exists independently of the present and will arrive regardless of what happens here. The future is what the present is building. The relationship between now and later is direct, causal, and entirely real. What you do today is writing the next chapter. The pen is in your hand, the page is blank, and the morning is the moment you decide what the first sentence is going to say. Say this one last, after all the others. After you have chosen your response and released the comparison and protected your peace and surrendered what you cannot control and acknowledged your becoming and released the need for approval and faced the difficulty and committed your best effort and decided where your energy goes. Say this one as the close of the morning and the open of the day. This is my life. I am living it forward, starting right now, not tomorrow, not after the conditions improve, not when you feel more ready, right now, with everything you have, in the exact circumstances that exist, moving forward in the only direction time actually goes. You have been given one life, one single extraordinary, irreplaceable life, and today is one of the days that life contains. Do not let it pass like something to survive. Let it be something you actually lived, fully, intentionally, with the complete understanding that this day, as ordinary as it looks from the outside, is one of the days that is building the story you will one day look back on. Make it count. Not perfectly, just genuinely. That is all it has ever taken. 10 words, 10 mornings, One life that finally starts feeling like yours. Let us say them together one more time before you go. Today I choose my response, not my circumstances, my response. I am not behind. I am exactly where my journey has brought me. My peace is not for sale. Not today. Not for anyone. I release what I cannot control and pour myself into what I can. I am becoming. Every single day, I am becoming more of who I am meant to be. I do not need their approval to know my own worth. Difficult does not mean impossible. Hard does not mean wrong. I give my best to this day, and I let the rest go. I choose who gets my energy today, not by accident, by decision. This is my life. I am living it forward, starting right now. Now. One more honest thing before you go back to your day. You are going to forget most of this by Thursday. That is not a criticism. That is just how the brain works. The noise of the ordinary day is louder than any insight, and it will drown these out within 48 hours if you let it. So do not let it. Come back tomorrow morning.